I'm really sorry that I haven't been around, but I need to speak out about something. I recently was made privy to a death metal band who made a song about hanging, about suicide. And in the first minute of the song, they used Katelyn Nicole Davis's last words. It wasn't a voice actor. It wasn't a singer impersonating Katelyn. That would have been bad enough. They actually intruded on an intimate moment. Her last words, her dying moment. They played the audio from her dying moment that, in my opinion, she didn't even want to have to happen. In my opinion, she live streamed it for as long as she did in hopes that it would be stopped. In her dying moment that should have never even happened, that intimate, heartbreaking, tragic moment is being played in the beginning of this person's song. The song doesn't talk about suicide prevention. It doesn't spread awareness. There's nothing even constructive that comes out of it. If anything, it romanticizes suicide. It's the kind of music, if anything, lyric-wise, that further makes someone who's already suicidal want to sink into it even more. But that's not even my main beef. This was a 12-year-old girl. Her family, unfortunately, to this day, never talks about her. I mean, they do among themselves, but publicly they don't make an effort for her memory, for her existence to be known. They prefer it, based on actions or lack thereof, for her memory to evaporate into thin air. So I feel like it is our job as the public, as admirers of Katelyn's, to preserve her memory, to keep it living, to love it. And that includes keeping it from toxicity, like this band. How dare they? Maybe they didn't realize in that moment how mindless and selfish it was to use that audio, but hopefully in hindsight they do realize that. I know that on YouTube, if you talk about anything that deals with suicide, especially with minors, you don't get monetized. That's not my concern. I highly doubt they're being monetized for, talking about like having that clip in there. I would hope so. Anyway, I hope they're not monetized for that. That's not my concern. My concern is the morality or lack thereof in this case. I'm shaking right now. I'm holding the microphone and I'm shaking. Katelyn is whispering in that audio. She's letting out cries, like she can barely get her words out. You can just tell by her tone. If you've listened to all her previous live streams, you can tell in that moment her voice is not like it's ever been. Usually when she was upset, there was some anger, there was like some force, there was some aggression in her voice. Even when she'd cry, it was like, they hate me. Like it was very, just more, there was more of a power to her voice. That last moment of hers is completely powerless. You can tell she's just, at that point, throwing her hands up emotionally and submitting to the pain and allowing the bullies to win in a way. And it's such a Katelyn's memory is such a fragile, precious memory. And all children who leave this world really have a precious memory, but for Katelyn, she let us know who she was. She was completely tortured. I don't care what her stepdad wants to say, or her mom, or anyone. It's all there for anyone with a brain to see. And all of her torment from her life came out in those last words. That, it would be like the equivalent to getting audio of a dying cancer patient who didn't want to, or, that's not even the same. It would be like getting the audio of a child burning in a fire and getting their last words, help me, save me, and then playing that in the beginning of your song. What the F? Honestly, though, I don't even know if that's comparable. At least the child in the fire, as horrible as that is, isn't wanting to die. Katelyn wanted to die. A 12-year-old wanted to die. Why would you play the dying moment to promote your song? And I know they would say, I'm not promoting the song. It's about promoting suicide. No, there's nothing in the lyrics literally are just, it's like a word scramble of trying to, it's make suicide seem artistic, honestly. It's like, I'm going to put a flair to all the, I'm not even going to read the lyrics. I don't know if you can tell. I'm still shaking. I just had to say something. This is not thought out. I had some friends, my same close friends, who we talk about Katelyn almost every day. And we have since we learned about Katelyn years ago. And they told me about this band. And I was not emotionally prepared for this. I did not know that when I clicked play on their YouTube video, what I was about to hear. I have not heard Katelyn's cries. If they have a heart at all, they're gonna take that down. At least they will take out that first clip. In my song that I did for Katelyn, I felt bad enough just having the image of her legs that she cut up for her blog to show people, that she was a cutter, that she was feeling traumatized from her stepdad. That honestly was a punishment for Anthony. That was really to call him out. Because I feel like, he's still, people ask me all the time for updates. No, nothing has happened to Anthony in terms of Katelyn. He has not been arrested. He hasn't been questioned. The audio device, they still have Katelyn's cell phone. And by they, I'm talking about investigators. They still never did data recovery to see why her stepdad got on her account in the hours after she was found hanging. They never looked into it. If anything, when I've called to talk to the sheriff or to the lead investigator, if anything, it doesn't matter how nice and friendly I am, they act annoyed to even just have to return a call. And I've only called twice in years. So I have no update. He just, and the thing is in that, where she's from, in Georgia, that's common. It's common for these sorts of crimes to just go unnoticed, for them to just be ignored, because all the city really cares about is image, and they'd rather not acknowledge things that make them somehow look bad. It's really sick, especially if the men or the perpetrators, they get away with a lot, and that's just fact based on reoccurring patterns. And that I wanted to call him out. The thing is, she wanted to call him out. Katelyn in her live streams, her biggest antagonist was Anthony Lee Rogers. He was the one that would tell her to hang herself. He'd buy the rope. He would touch her sexually like she was an object, and then in the next breath tell her she should hang herself and die. A grown man. I mean, he probably would like hearing the audio in the beginning of that death metal song. He probably liked when she hung herself. He wasn't expressing remorse after the moment. If he got on her account on Facebook, to clear his name, to throw Tammy under the rug, I don't care what y'all think of her. Maybe she, I'm sure there was definitely guilt on her end in some areas, okay, and she feels bad about that. But regardless what you think about Tammy, the fact that that's where his mind was to get on Katelyn's account and play a blame game on her account. Why would he not be on his account? Why would he get on her account to do that? He had never gotten on her account in the past. So I'm sorry to all of you who keep up with Katelyn. No, I don't have an update, because there is no update. Basically, in that part of Georgia, it must be normal to them for a 12-year-old to kill herself. That's what they are implying by doing nothing. That's what they're implying, is that to them, being 12 and killing yourself is normal. That psychiatrist who gave her Prozac and then threw her back into the jungle, threw her back into that trailer, knowing what was going on in that trailer, the state, CPS, informed, the reason that she got referred to the services that she had was because in their little notepad, the CPS workers, they had an idea of what was going on. It was an open case. They just didn't do anything. So the fact that that psychiatrist, who, by the way, on his Facebook is constantly showing himself going on these tropical vacations, he works at 2 different offices in Georgia, and he's like never conveniently there when I've called. And I have called because I want to ask him why. I want to ask him if he's even aware of what happened to one of his patients. There's no way he's not. Although, I don't know, I say that, but the way Georgia really doesn't want to cover this. So no, nothing, there's no update. All I can say is that Katelyn's mother has been passing her drug tests. Katelyn's younger siblings, Abby and AJ, are going to be legally adopted, maybe. That seems to be in the near future, but that's not certain. I mean, and we're not sure who they'll be adopted by. We just know it's not going to be a family member because family members have been proven to not be reliable. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my only update. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Her Aunt Valerie, who looks a lot like her, is expecting a baby. She made a Facebook post recently saying that she can honestly say that she wouldn't change anything about her life, and it's been the best, years for, the last, I forgot the exact amount of years, but she included the year that Katelyn hung herself. So I'm wondering if, escapism is just something that everyone in her family practiced, and that's why they never paid her suffering any attention. I'm also surprised that the baby's not going to be named after Katelyn. It is a boy, but there's a way to, you could name, I don't know. I just, it's almost like the reason that they hate when we appreciate Katelyn and talk about her is they seem very narcissistic to an unhealthy degree to where literally, okay, here's the thing. I know a lot of y'all probably learned about Jamie Kloss, the one who was kidnapped and recently brought back home. I think she was 13. Well, the dad and the mother of the kidnapper, who was 21 years old, they have so much remorse and they feel terrible about what their son did. And they've come out and they've expressed that. And I just don't know how Katelyn's remaining family aren't compelled to speak out about whether it's suicide awareness. I mean, in every single community, if you just go on Facebook and you go to the group section and you type in suicide, every single community in the United States has suicide awareness groups that meet up. And you can you can spread awareness, you can share your story, and you can help other people. Or just, even if they're not strong enough to do that at this time, even just remembering her, just in little bits and pieces. And, maybe they do on their own accord. Maybe they just don't do it publicly. But, I mean, if you go to Valerie's profile and you look and Valerie is Tammy's sister, and she lived near them. And you look and you go back to 2016. If you go back to the month of Katelyn's worst suffering in December, literally, Valerie's out buying, crazy expensive toys. She calls them toys, four-wheelers and stuff. And, even the following month, the focus was on, weddings and parties and going, on beach trips and buying more toys. I just can't relate to that. In terms of coping and grieving, I can't. I am going to say it again, though. I don't have an update. And for that, I am very sorry. I wish I did. I still... It's one of the, like, when it comes to Katelyn, I will say that to this day, she helps bring me back. When I start feeling sorry for myself about things, and when I just, start kind of, because I think we all have a tendency sometimes to get ungrateful or to forget what we're lucky, as long as you're alive, there's something to be grateful for, really, as cheesy as that sounds. And, when I think of Katelyn and how strong she was and how she was so selfless, even when she literally was abandoned in every way you could imagine, it really brings me back to reality and puts things into perspective. So I'm sure Tony Baisley, who has several accounts, is going to go into attack mode now. And if y'all have been following anything that deals with Katelyn over the years, you're aware of this Tony Baisley from the UK who attacks people who talk about Katelyn in a positive way. Mostly females. He mostly goes after females and sends them death threats. Sends their kids death threats. He's the one who gives Tammy money every month, and it's been proven on documents. I've tried to humanize myself with him so he doesn't just idolize me and then hate me and see me as this character on YouTube. I've tried to humanize myself and have deep discussions with him. Well, I wouldn't say they're deep, but I've tried to dive deeply into his mind and to honestly kind of kiss his ass a little bit, because I was scared at one point. And I'm not scared of him anymore. It's just that he's part of the toxicity that comes with preserving Katelyn's memory. So yeah, I'm grateful for anybody who talks about Katelyn. I've seen, I think there's a John Crimes or something who recently talked about her, and I don't know what to really believe as far as what he's claiming, but you know what? At least he's bringing attention to Katelyn, and he's not doing it in a tacky way like this band is doing. He's not playing audio he's not being intrusive and violating Katelyn. I feel like it's a violation of Katelyn's boundaries, what this death metal band is doing, and no one else can convince me otherwise. So I'm grateful for Bobcat, who continues to talk about her. Justice Through Awareness for Katelyn, Courtney Elwell. And even when Tony Baisley uploads stuff about Katelyn, if it's about Katelyn, then good. I mean, anything that spreads awareness for Katelyn and her story, and it can touch others and others can relate to it and others can see, because the biggest lesson I feel like to be learned in this whole thing is that, and I've said this in my very first Katelyn video, is it is so easy to not see that light at the end of the tunnel when it's muddied by when you basically feel like everyone hates you. To me in my heart, in my core, when I want to kill myself, it's when I feel like everyone hates me, or that anyone who's going to meet me is going to hate me anyway. Because the whole point of living is connection. The whole point of living is having a sense of belonging. If you don't have that, you don't want to live. It doesn't matter how much money you have, fame, anything. I mean, you've got to feel accepted and loved by someone, even if it's just one person, just someone. Katelyn didn't feel she had that. And so I feel like the biggest lesson to be had in all this is that even when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because of all this hatred coming in your direction, there's still light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it because of all the hatred. And when you look at Katelyn and you realize where she could be right now if she had just waited. Yeah, granted, things could have gotten worse. We really don't know. But we're all going to die anyway. Death is inevitable. So cutting it short is pointless. It's pointless. We're going to die regardless. And for me, I have to remind myself of that when I feel suicidal is, I'm going to go anyway. So I'm going to go anyway. And pain is something that I'm supposed to feel. I'm supposed to feel pain. I feel like a lot of the reason that Katelyn was such an empath was because she never wanted anyone else to feel the pain that she was so used to feeling. So that actually made her even a better person. Not saying that she should have gone through that pain, not that level of pain. I feel like we all need pain to some degree, but not to that level. That was torture. That was torment. So the biggest lesson to be had when people learn about Katelyn is that it's never worth it to end your life, because she had all these people who would have loved her, It has been proven by all of us who love her, the person she was in every way. Even when she was mad, she was so lovable. She was but she didn't know that. She had no idea, because she was only focused on the people in her life, in her circle, in her existence at that time. And you really can't blame her. She was 12. That's why it's so important. I feel like the system that we have in place right now of just throwing pills at kids who are seemingly depressed, we should have it to where they're being put in social circles around other depressed kids and talking and doing activities and being checked on every single night on the phone by peers and by elderly. That should be what's in place, because connection is what keeps us wanting to live. A healthy connection with people. So anyway, I just had to vent about all that. So thanks to all of you who still talk about Katelyn. I really appreciate the dads who comment on the Matthew Davis video and they point out how their dads, that they themselves are dads, and that they could never just, give up care in their daughter because of a tumultuous relationship with the mother or because of the system. Basically nothing could come between them trying to spend time and get to know their daughter. Like, I really appreciate the dads who leave those comments, because then you get comments that are saying the opposite, like, who are basically agreeing with Matthew. And as someone whose dad was exactly like Matthew in terms of being non-existent and blaming it on my mother, it doesn't, like a child, even in my adulthood now, that doesn't, it's implying to you that they didn't care enough. So, yeah, if someone can go on living their life in the way that they were living it, when they're happy without you, then they don't care. And a child recognizes that on a subconscious level. Even if they're not realizing that they're recognizing that. And it affects them negatively. I mean, Katelyn would be in the vehicle listening to random songs, and she would point out, oh yeah, like that it would remind her of her dad not loving her. So that shows how much it's just ingrained in a child. Like, hello, I mean, they're your parents. Even like lesser evolved mammals like need to feel affection from their parents. So anyway, yeah, I really have nothing else to say. Sorry that I haven't been around. I'm really thankful for people who leave comments and care about Katelyn. And yeah, so thanks. Bye.